too. Jeez, yeah, I got her stop at 10.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure people heard that. That's okay. Uh, and I'll probably have to clip that out of YouTube because if you swear within the first 3 minutes, odds are that they don't like it.
I
So
didn't
we'll see
swear.
how that
Did I?
goes. Well, do you count that shit as a
Oh,
swear
yeah.
word?
Sorry. I don't, but I'm desensitized to swear words, so that's my problem.
Well, we might as well get going here. I want to just do. That's fine. Let's go. Um, You're set. I'm set. We got
Yeah,
a lot to talk about. We were just talking about open claw stuff. If we have a chance, we'll talk about it at the end.
sure.
If you think your new smartphone is small, wait until you see what's cooking in the lab. We're looking at a massive shift beyond silicon that could pack 1,000 times more power into a chip the size of a fingernail. It's called molecular electronics, and it's about to turn the entire industry down to the atomic level. For decades, we've relied on silicon to make gadgets faster, but we're officially hitting a physical wall where we can't shrink parts anymore without them melting or leaking power. And molecular electronics solves this by ditching bulky silicon transistors for single molecules, the tiny building blocks of everything. This isn't a minor upgrade. It is a path to devices that are denser, faster, and more energy efficient than anything we've ever seen. What do you think about this, John?
This is exciting for me because this is really cool because we talk about Moore's law, we talk about transistors all the time, and it's just crazy. So, just to kind of set the stage here, for decades, the semiconductor industry has driven performance increases by essentially shrinking silicon transistors, which is embodied in Moore's law. And that predicts that transistor count roughly doubling every few years. But as why can't I say transistors this morning? Approach atomic scales, gate length under 15 nanometers, they encounter some quantum effects. For example, electron tunneling. And they also have fabrication limits that make further scaling exponentially harder and costlier. So molecular electronics offers kind of a bottom-up alternative, using molecules themselves as functional electronic elements such as switches, diodes, and transistors through quantum behavior rather than relying on bulk silicon structures. So, sounds like magic. How does this work? So, where conventional transistors control current flow by modulating charge in a semiconductor channel, molecular electronic devices leverage quantum tunneling and molecular energy states to regulate that current. So each molecule can act as an individual logic element or switch. And because molecules are orders of magnitude smaller than even the most advanced silicon transistors, the integration densities could theoretically reach around 10 to the 14th power devices per square centimeter. Putting that into context, roughly 1,000 times greater than today's best silicon chips. But achieving this requires precise assembly of molecules and reliable electrical contacts to electrodes at ultra small scales. Without getting into anything anymore, what do you think about this, Craig? Is this magic? Is this legit? Or what are your thoughts? I think you're on mute.
I was sneezing earlier, so I hope it's legit because we are hitting a wall with what we know with silicon. Because traditional chips are reaching their limit about 3 nanometers, like you said, and molecules are naturally, 1 to 5 nanometers apart, or nanometers wide. So we're going any smaller, we're starting to make physics breaks. So molecules are naturally smaller. So it makes sense to transition to this. There's a couple of things that it starts to lean towards, is biology better than tech, or is this as we start to say, okay, this if we can make these things natural, and we talk about data storage in biology and whatnot. But I like to think of this as a standard computer chip, like a city built out of bricks, like silicon. And molecular electronics is like replacing those bricks with small Lego pieces that are only a few atoms wide. So you take a normal brick and you replace it with something that's only a few atoms wide, and now you can build so much more stuff in that same space. So you make much smaller chips or much more powerful chips, this could enable the next real wave of revolution. And if the power is down to the level they're talking about, we could see a huge dynamic change, because let's face it, data centers are costing so much money these days to build and power and whatnot. If we could see this stuff hitting it in the next 5 years, but it looks like it's going to be 5 to 15 depending on where you are, that this would make the power consumption go down and the power go way up, and all of a sudden they're not $500 billion to build this data center, and it's not you don't need a nuclear power plant to run it. So that changes a lot of things. So I'm looking forward to that, because these parts are so small. They use quantum tunneling, like you said, to move electricity. So they require less power that way. Your phone could theoretically have the processing power of today's massive data centers, and instant health diagnostics. A single molecule sensor could detect a single viral particle of pollutant in your home instantly. Like, think of those things. Like, the concept is great. Now, I don't know if this is an illusion. We really have to start seeing more tests and stuff. What are you thinking about this, John?
Yeah, I'm loving this. So, like, right now, what are we at? 2 nanometer process nodes for silicon chips, I think, which is like, but it's a new process. It's the newest process through TSMC. So, they're like, even at 3 nanometer process nodes, like, they're hitting physical scaling limits. But because not just in size, but reliability and energy efficiency. I don't know if you follow chips, which we talk about them sometimes, but like, they're not getting the gains that they used to get from chip to chip nowadays with these new processes. And so that's just showing us that that these limits, Moore's law and all this stuff are really starting to break. And so molecular electronics, it doesn't just shrink the components, it essentially fundamentally changes the physics by which they operate. And so, like, with silicon MOSFETs, classical charge transport dominates, right? So molecular devices, they exploit, again, we're talking quantum, right? But we're talking quantum tunneling and discrete energy levels of molecules. And that enables switching and control at the atomic dimensions. So it's really cool, because the way that they're going to do this is through the way that they integrate this is it's something called interface engineering. And that's going to help them to align molecules on electrodes and exploit self-assembly techniques that allow the molecules to organize themselves into ordered arrays with atomic precision. What that sounds like to me is another huge manufacturing device that one company is probably going to be selling with whoever decides, or whoever gets to that first. Because right now, I think there's only one company that makes the chip manufacturing machines, right? And it's based in somewhere in Europe.
I believe that is true. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, the failure rate on those really small 2 to 3 nanometer chips are much higher than the other ones, just because of the size. The catch right now is the heat. Most organic molecules hate heat and will literally fall apart above 200 degrees, while current chip making involves temperatures over 400 degrees. There are also concerns about reliability. If your brain is made up of individual molecules, what happens if one atoms move out of place? Keeping these billions of tiny connections stable over years of use is, potential monumental engineering hurdle. Timeline-wise, expect to see specialized sensors in the next 1 to 5 years, and hybrid molecule silicon chips within 5 to 15 years. These will initially be a high-end enterprise tech and for medical labs, think NASA and that kind of thing, but it aims eventually lower cost by using chemical assembly instead of multi-billion-dollar factories. So it might be way cheaper to manufacture these things, among other things. So I'm loving where this is going. The power output is significant. The destructive interference drops by over 100%. I'm excited.
Yeah. And just to put this into context, historical context, this isn't a new idea. So in the 1970s and 80s, scientists like Ari Avram and Mark Ratner, they proposed this, that individual molecules could act as electronic components. But the problem is that the technology took decades to catch up to their theory. And so modern microscopy, nanofabrication, those new technologies, they now make it possible to do this, which is why we're talking about it now.
So if you're into this kind of stuff, there's a huge article that covers all of it over on torontostarts.com. Go check it out. The link will be in the podcast. While silicon had a great run, the future of computing is going to be grown in a lab, not just etched in a factory. So do you think we're ready to trust our data to individual atoms, or is this all just a lab dream? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be watching this atomic scale race very closely. Just got to find it here.
No worries.
Is that it? Oh, no, here it is. Sorry. Like, what is that? All right, here we go.
No, you still got device structures and fabrication techniques up.
All right. Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. If you feel like you're hearing about quantum computing every single day, but still can't buy one at Best Buy, there's a very good reason for that. We are officially living through the 1950s of quantum tech, and the shift from lab experiments to real-world tools is happening right now. Today, we're breaking down why that transistor era of quantum matters for your future devices. A new major report in Science confirms that we have moved past the is this possible phase of quantum technology and into the how do we actually build it phase. It's been compared to the 1950s to 1970 era of silicon chips. The foundational physics is done. Now we're in a decades-long engineering race to make it small, reliable, and affordable for everyone. This is pretty exciting, John.
Yeah, this is cool, and we've covered a lot of different technologies that Amazon and Microsoft and all these different and even some crazy quantum concepts and stuff like that. But it's rapidly advancing beyond the controlled experiments phase and entering what experts are pretty much calling I call it the TSN turning point, but the turning point. To the moment when the transistor first proved its potential in, I think it was the 1940s. So early quantum systems, and even now, they're fragile. They're isolated. They're pretty much limited in the lab. But as we've covered before, recent developments have produced essentially functioning quantum prototypes, which demonstrate that real quantum effects with practical potential in computing, sensing, and communication systems is possible. So quantum information hardware today, I don't know if you see it. It looks like an upside down honeycomb or honey. Anyways, it's a diverse ecosystem of physical platforms. So you've got superconducting qubits, you've got trapped ions, you've got spin qubits, and you've got photon-based systems, and each with trade-offs in speed, coherence, and coherence is how long quantum states last, and scalability. So the researchers here highlight that although functional systems exist, that none of these platforms has yet demonstrated fault-tolerant, large-scale operation, which means that quantum computers that outperform classical computers across a broad range of tasks are still years away. But the foundational physics is what appears sound, and that's critical here. And so there are a lot of engineering challenges ahead. So the biggest thing is error rates, and I know we've covered quite a few different articles on error rate, but there's also the cryogenic requirement. So a lot of quantum systems need to be kept near absolute zero, which is negative 273 Kelvin, I think. Is that right? Or three? Anyways. And then there's qubit interconnection. So building systems with millions of qubits without creating noise or crosstalk. So we've covered a lot of new materials, new strategies, new manufacturing processes to achieve high yield production of devices. But scaling is going to be a major problem. But yeah, we are at that 1950s kind of thing. So that's what we're calling this transistor moment, because that was kind of it's kind of a metaphor rooted in computer history. So before the transistor's invention in 1947, so you're right about the 50s, vacuum tubes is what people were being used, and they were bulky, they were fragile, they were inefficient. So even after inventing the transistor, it took nearly 2 decades for it to become a backbone of electronics. But we've all obviously learned from that, and we're obviously trying to find technologies sooner rather than later to integrate into this. But yeah, we're at that transistor moment, which is super, super exciting. What do you think about this?
I think it's great. And I've had that picture of the chip on the screen for a while, just so people can see if they were watching it. I think this is really cool. It moves us away from, what we call hero experiments or one-off successes towards utility scale, mass-produced, reliable tech. So imagine you're trying to build a smartphone, but the only thing invented so far is a single room-sized vacuum tube. Quantum tech is currently in that bulky but functional stage. So, our impact on our future daily life would be things like quantum unbreakable security with quantum communication links, QKD, are already being tested in cities to make hacking physically impossible. Better medical scans, quantum sensors are moving into hospitals to provide brain and body imaging with much higher detail than current MRIs. Perfect materials. Eventually, this tech will simulate new battery chemicals or drugs in seconds rather than years of trial and error. So I'm really excited about this. But, you're right about we're currently in the multi-decade journey. We expect specialized industrial use now, but with broader consumer utility arriving in the next 10 to 20 years. Currently, enterprise only for people because it's just too expensive. Most consumers will interact with it via cloud like IBM or quantum servers rather than buying a physical quantum PC.
Yeah. And I feel like, because we covered a lot in 2025, we should have done a recap, by the way. But I feel like 2025 feels pivotal because there were a lot of announcements. There were a lot of advancements. There was a couple chips that were announced. So we had Google's Willow processor. We had Microsoft's Majorana 1. And so I feel like, so although we're at the transistor moment, and it doesn't mean that we're going to yield these quantum PCs overnight or whatever they're called, I think we're closer than a few decades than what it took for PCs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we will move faster. Just everything moves faster now, right? And there's more money, more demand, more access than ever. So, how many billionaires were created in the last 20 years versus the previous 100? And you just, start to see that access to capital and the ability to do these kinds of things have changed significantly. So, yeah. Scaling is a nightmare, which is a catch right now. To make these computers actually useful for big tasks, we might need millions of qubits, but we're currently struggling to manage just a few hundred without them overheating and crashing. So, and experts worry about quantum hype. We've talked about this before. If we promise the world today and don't deliver it for 20 years, funding may dry up before the tech is usually ready. And, that's a lot. Everyone's promising the future, and the future takes a long time to get here. We're still waiting for our Jetsons, robots in cars and flying vehicles and stuff. We see them and we talk about them, but they're not in the home every day yet. That's for sure. So,
yeah. But even before universal quantum computing arrives, there are quantum technologies that are already finding use in today. We've got quantum sensing, which are ultra precise measurements far beyond classical limits. We've got quantum communication, which we talked about, encrypted networks using entanglement for security. We talked about a GPS system that uses quantum, or a new GPS system that uses quantum, specialized computation tasks like simulation of quantum materials and chemistry. So, like, there are already real world uses, and I feel like that is what's helping to kind of push this forward quicker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I say we've officially graduated from the science fiction phase of quantum and started to enter the hard engineering phase. And I guess the quote I like is from David Oshlam, who the foundational physics concepts are established. Functional systems exist. Now we must nurture the partnerships to achieve technology's full utility scale potential. So they've established the rules. They know it works. There's a bunch of bumps to get to on the road, but it's, they have it working. It's repeatable, and it's proven. So we'll have to see where that goes. So what do you think? Will we see a quantum iPhone in our lifetime? Or is this destined to stay in the lab? Let us know your timeline predictions in the comments, and we'd love to hear from you. Is this going to be something that eventually big corporations actually want to keep from us because quantum technology is too powerful to be in the hands of mere individuals? Let us know if that's just a weird conspiracy theory or something that we should be thinking about. Oh, I turned that off for some reason. Okay.
China.
Perfect. Look, I can widen that a bit. I'm sorry, I can't do this. That's why. All right. Got that. We've been told for years that computers are hitting a wall, but researchers just found a way to smash through it using the laws of physics instead of raw code. If you ever wondered how your phone handles 5G or how self-driving cars see the world so fast, a massive breakthrough from Peking University just changed the game. Scientists have created a multi-physics computer architecture that stops forcing every calculation through traditional digital circuits. Instead, it uses a mix of light, electricity, and in-memory processing to handle complex math nearly 4 times faster than current tech. It's a specialized engine designed specifically to speed up the Fourier transform, the mathematical backbone of almost all modern communication and AI. What do you think about this, John?
So first off, I hated fast Fourier transformations in school, but let's dive into this. So yeah, this architecture, it can do about 500 billion operations per second, which is compared to about 130 billion operations per second in prior systems for the same fundamental task. So we're talking about a 4-fold performance improvement. I'm excited about this because it's not increasing energy use proportionally. And so let's dive into kind of the integration. So the architecture synthesizes multiple nodes of computing into one system. You've got different physical domains such as electrical current, charge dynamics, and potentially photonic effects. And they're matched to the parts of computation that they handle best. So by aligning which physical mechanism does what, the system is able to avoid typical inefficiencies that are associated with traditional digital pipelines that use a single domain, like electrical voltage switching, which is used in chips for everything, right? So the heterogeneous physical design, it reduces the need to shuttle data back and forth between memory and processors, which, if we're talking about it, it's a key bottleneck in conventional AI hardware. So this could significantly improve speed and energy efficiency. And so one of the ways that this architecture achieves this is what's called processing in memory, or PIM, which embeds computational capability directly where the data is stored instead of moving data to a separate processor. And that dramatically reduces data movement overhead that typically consume up to 60% of energy in conventional designs. And it also introduces latency. So by reducing this overhead, it allows the system to accelerate key kernels like Fourier transforms while cutting both time and energy per operation. I think this is a game changer with AI computing, with AI chips, and I think this is, I don't know where NVIDIA is in all this, if they're involved in this, but I think this is legit. I think this could be a potential game changer for AI. What do you think?
Well, to me, it's just like adding, math coprocessors into the chip. Is this going to be the new video cards, for example, to process AI will actually have these processors built on or inside the chip, or as a third-party add-on that you can, plug into your processor to process kind of stuff. So anytime you go to in silicon, it's going to be faster. And, I interviewed and talked to a lot of companies that were doing in silicon stuff for Bitcoin mining and whatnot. And it was so much faster when they put the code in the chip rather than running it on software. And it made things so much faster. So when you start looking at this and that it's just the way it's architected, and then they make the hardware optimized for this type of process, it's going to be so much faster. So I'm excited. I think of the traditional computer like a multi-tool that tries to use a screwdriver for everything. This tech is like a specialized workshop where the computer picks the perfect physical tool like light waves or electrical current to solve specific math problems naturally and instantly. And it solves the data traffic jam problem by doing math right where the data is stored, like you said, in memory in real time. And using natural physics, it increases the speed from 130 billion to 500 billion operations per second, and while using way less power. I love that everything we're talking about these days is almost, we're going to get a 4 times or 10 times increase in speed, and the power drops. It's like, okay, great. This is, we're definitely heading in the right direction. So some of the impacts we might see on our life is your phone could download massive files even faster with zero lag because it processes wireless signals way more efficiently. Smarter robots. Home robots or self-driving cars could react to obstacles in real time without needing massive battery draining or computer in the trunk. And we talked a while ago about how they are putting quantum mechanics in the hand or in the elbow of robots to make them smoother to understand. This obviously will allow for that. Longer battery life. Wearables, smartwatches could perform advanced health scans like heart or brain monitoring locally without killing the battery. Currently looking at, with successful research breakthrough published in Natural Electronics, we expect to see this hitting specialized industrial hardware within 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's funny when you say you could download a file much quicker. I immediately go to the show Silicon Valley with Pied Piper, but anyways, we don't need to get into that. So what I like about this is, what current architecture is like is they're using essentially graphics cards, right? As these chips for AI, and NVIDIA is developing their own, but they're GPUs, right? And there are TPUs, but we're talking GPUs. So what I like about this is now they're taking kind of a more fundamental approach to developing architecture that is ideal for AI, which I think makes the most sense, if that makes sense. Instead of trying to adapt an old architecture, let's create new architecture. Let's look at what is needed, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for this. Like you talked about, like we're talking edge AI systems, neuromorphic computing, brain-inspired AI, communication signal processing. That's just some of the examples that can be done. But if we can reduce that memory bottleneck using PIM, I think this is going to be phenomenal. Did you read anywhere? Because I know you always come up with the timelines. Did it give us a timeline as to when this might go into like production kind of testing?
Well, as I mentioned, we're hitting in specialized industrial hardware in the next 3 to 5 years because it's proven, it's studied, the research paper is launched, but consumer tech will follow that. So we're looking at a 5 to 7 or 5 to 10 year for consumer tech.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for
this. So if you combine that with all the other things we got going on, like can we do this architecture with molecular computing and with all the other things, I'm excited. The Fourier transform math that this chip accelerates is the same math your brain uses to recognize a specific voice in a crowded, noisy room. So it's complicated and it's been known for a long time. So we're moving out of the one-size-fits-all chips and towards physics-based hardware that works with nature rather than against it. And do you see that we're going to get specialized chips this one is for doing stuff with video, and this one is doing stuff for this, and this one's doing stuff for that, because they're wired specifically, for example, with the hardware codec, with the acceleration and encryption for all that stuff, so your CPU and your bandwidth can be even smaller. So let us know, is this the end of traditional processors, or as we know it, or are we just sticking fast? Are we just really fast sidekick? You're going to plug this on at the end. Let me know if you trust an analog chip to drive your car in the comments. We'll be tracking this one closely. All right. Oh, lots of time. Plastic to hydrogen. There we go. Oh, crap. Made a mistake. Got to fix my post here for a second because I didn't do that.
You doing something different today?
No, there was a post that didn't get edited properly, so I had to fix something.
Okay.
Just when I'm oops, missed that. Plastic. All right, we can see everything.
Yeah.
If you think the future of clean energy depends on digging up rare, expensive metals from deep underground, think again. Scientists have found a way to create hydrogen fuel using nothing but sunlight, water, and get this, conductive plastic. We're talking about a massive breakthrough that could finally make clean energy cheap enough for everyone. Researchers at Chalmers University have developed a way to produce hydrogen fuel without using platinum, which is currently the gold standard, but is incredibly rare and expensive. By using engineered plastic nanoparticles, they've proven we can split water into fuel using just sunlight. It's a game changer because it replaces $1,000 an ounce metal with an abundant lab-made materials. What do you think about this, John?
I love it. I love hydrogen. I love that it's still developing, even though some governments are pulling back. But so just to kind of set the stage, hydrogen, for those of you that don't know, it's been long considered a cornerstone of the renewable energy transition. The reason being is because it burns cleanly. The output is water. So it can serve for fuel for vehicles, industry, long duration energy storage. There's a bunch of different things. But, and I know for those of you that listen all the time, you might have heard this before, but there's still a major challenge: producing and storing hydrogen. So producing hydrogen in an environmentally friendly way that doesn't rely on fossil fuels or rare earth minerals. As of right now, it does. Now, we have covered other technology developments that use non-rare earth metals, but still use metals. But so traditional photo-based systems, they split water into hydrogen and oxygen, and they require platinum as a co-catalyst to accelerate the reaction. So it's called an HER, or hydrogen evolution reaction. So platinum scarcity and high cost and geographical concentration, they make large-scale deployments of such systems pretty much really challenging, right? So this breakthrough, it centers on electrically conductive plastics. So they're conjugated polymers that are engineered at the molecular level. So they're also both light absorbing and water compatible. And so in these experiments in the lab that these researchers were doing, they formed these polymers into nanoparticles, and that increased their surface area in interaction with water molecules. And so when they exposed this to simulated sunlight, the plastic particles absorb photons and generate excited electrons, and that drove the reaction, which effectively acted as kind of like a photocatalyst. And so this catalytic action is to what platinum traditionally does, but using cheaper and more abundant organic. I am super excited about. What do you think about this? Is this a potential game changer for producing hydrogen, or what do you think about this, Craig?
It definitely could be a game changer. I just fear hydrogen's got all this fear around it, and I'm one of those fear mongers around the explosion. You're going to make a plastic bottle. Like, what are you talking about? So I like the idea that we can do it with less materials and inexpensive materials, but we still have to understand that hydrogen and oxygen make boom. So just got to keep that in mind. So think of it like a synthetic.
Propane makes boom. LNG makes boom. Gas makes boom.
Yes, but they don't make boom when mixed with oxygen. They need a spark. This does not.
Okay.
Air touches it, boom. That's the difference. It's okay. So it needs to be secure. Okay. That's why we've had some reluctance around, leakage and all that stuff. Anyway, think of it as a synthetic leaf. Just as leaf uses sunlight to make food, these plastic particles soak up sunbeams and use that energy to snap water molecules apart, releasing hydrogen gas that we can use as fuel. Currently making green hydrogen is too expensive because the machines need platinum. Platinum is rare, mined only in a few places, mostly Russia and South Africa, and it's environmentally dirty to extract. These methods use cheap carbon-based plastics instead. So, lower cost for hydrogen means fuel cells in cars and home heating could eventually become cheaper than gas or electric equivalents. We could see local fuel, since you don't need rare materials. Any sunny country can manufacture its own fuel catalyst without relying on foreign mines. So your gas stations could be, what have you, like have these big fields of these plastic things out back to make it. This creates green hydrogen, meaning the only thing coming out of your tailpipe or chimney is pure water vapor. It's currently in the advanced lab stage. We are likely looking at 5 to 10 years again before you see a commercial plastic hydrogen generator in a factory or home. But, there is no consumer price yet, but the raw material cost is expected to be at least 90% cheaper than current platinum catalysts. And I think if we can get to 90% cheaper, I think that will be a game changer for the hydrogen industry. So this might be the thing that tips it.
I agree. Now, there are still some challenges that are remaining. So the current system, it still relies on, surprisingly, vitamin C as a sacrificial chemical to sustain the reaction. And so their next milestone is overall water splitting. So producing H2 and O2 directly from sunlight and water without any sacrificial additives. And so the other thing is real-world challenges include long-term stability, scaling photocatalysts, and reactor engineering to integrate with solar concentrators. So those are huge hurdles. And we didn't touch on the vitamin C as the sacrificial chemical, but it's interesting to note that they need that to help with the reaction, but or to help sustain the reaction. But I don't think those are unrealistic hurdles that they can't overcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want to be anything controversial, but like if you run a diesel car in Europe, you got to use that pig urine in your car. So saying vitamin C, what's the big deal? They call it blue something or other, but so yeah, I don't think that's a huge concern. It is something that they have to have that sacrificial element. And right now it's vitamin C. And as long as that is, whatever their source for that is, plentiful, renewable, all that kind of stuff are good. Now they'll probably come up with a better one between now and the time this goes fully in production. So
and see, the other thing too is the materials developed in this research, it could also influence other clean energy technologies like a photocatalytic CO2 reduction or organic photovoltaic systems. Like this isn't just for hydrogen, which I like this research, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a huge article on torontostarts.com. Some of these articles we made this week are 20 minutes plus reading and go into a lot of detail. So if you really want to dig in, go check that out. But critics are concerned, like you mentioned, about longevity. Plastics usually break down under intense sunlight over time. So think of a plastic toy left in the yard, or we've all left stuff out and it's just brittle or peeling or what have you, or on your dashboard. So those nanoparticles need to prove they can last for years, not weeks. All right. So the technology turns the platinum problem into a plastic solution, potentially removing the biggest financial roadblock to a global hydrogen economy. So, do you think plastic powered fuel is a total game changer, or are we still too far away from ditching the gas pump? Or are you conspiracy theorists to say the oil manufacturers can't have you making energy in your backyard with a plastic bottle, so they're going to bury this somewhere? And think about that. So, you tell me, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll talk to you next scoop. John, they might just put a stop to it. If you can build your own energy and you don't have to.
Well, you can. You can build it with metals right now. You can create your own hydrogen, right?
Yeah, but come on. Who's going to buy the. Oh, fair enough. I don't know. I've never tried to build anything with platinum before, so I'm not going to. I mean, it's again different than plastic bottles, but the problem becomes, like I said, is you can't have people just doing it because they need to make it secure and airtight and all that stuff. So there has to be a proper system in place. It shouldn't be a DIY kind of situation, because you'll end up blowing yourself up. All right. Where are we? Vision? All right. If you've ever been told that damaged nerves in the brain or eyes are gone for good, you need to hear about this massive breakthrough from Johns Hopkins. We're looking at a discovery that proves our brains are way more like a growing garden than a fixed machine, and it's changing how we think about curing blindness forever. Researchers have discovered that mammalian brains can rewire themselves to restore vision after an injury, even without growing new cells. By using a process called eye sprouting, surviving neurons stretch out new branches to fill in the gaps left by damaged ones. It's a paradigm shift that suggests we don't need to regrow an eye to fix vision. We just need to help the surviving parts talk to each other again. What do you think about this, John?
Yeah, so let's give you some background and context on this. So, like, obviously, vision loss affects lots of people globally, but mammals, including humans, we lack the robust regenerative mechanisms that are seen in animals like zebrafish and salamanders. So these organisms, they can fully rebuild damaged retina cells and nervous tissue. But in mammals, neurons typically do not generate once damaged, particularly in the central nervous system. So this limitation has historically been a major obstacle to restoring eyesight after severe injury or degenerative disease. So this key finding at the Johns Hopkins University was what they did was they investigated the visual system recovery process after injury in mice. And although they didn't observe the regeneration of neurons, surviving cells in the visual pathway increased their dendritic branching, which is a process known as axon dendrite sprouting, which means that these additional branches, they formed new synaptic connections in the brain that closely approximated to pre-injury connectivity. So they effectively compensated for the lost neurons. And so what this study revealed was that an unexpected adaptive plasticity in mammalian visual circuitry. So what that means is that there is possibility to regenerate in mammals. We just need to figure out that process. But I think this has some promise. What do you think?
Well, we talked a few weeks ago about, apparently we have a third row of teeth that we can stimulate and grow a third row, which, eventually will help dentists and, humans who, need that or want that. this looks like it's a new thing potentially to help us get our vision back. And if you've ever had to have your lens replaced or read up about it on your eye, the more you read up on it, the more you'll actually believe in that we are in a simulation and how vision works, because it's insane that what comes in is a complete, it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. All the crap that comes in, and then your brain puts all the pieces together and says, oh, this is what it is. And so just reprogramming the eyes or the brain and whatnot to take the receptors and do it from other places. It's amazing that we can do this and retrain it. But when you look into it, it's really freaky how the eye works. And like, just the one fact that if you wear glasses that show everything upside down, it takes 3 days for your brain to adjust, and you'll see everything upside right while wearing those glasses.
Yeah. I think, and this is just my own insight, but like, I think the next step to this is, how do we leverage the neural branching sprouting that happens to turn that into help with vision loss?
Yes.
And I don't know if that is something that can be done with just human DNA, like with mammals themselves, or if we need to introduce stuff from zebrafish or other animals in order to help do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The next step, I'm not sure.
Yeah, think of your visual system like a power grid after a storm. Some power lines, neurons, are snapped and can't be fixed. Instead of building a whole new power plant, the surviving lines grow extra branches and reroute electricity around the damage. You know, for a long time, scientists have thought mammals like us were stuck with vision after we have an injury. So now, you know, we have this plan B circuit that we could potentially build that works almost as well. So, you know, we could have better recovery, could lead to new drugs that speed up the brain's natural ability to fix itself after a stroke or accident. Smart rehabilitation, future therapies might focus on exercise that encourage this rewiring rather than just waiting for healing. Since the study found males and females heal differently, future eye treatments will likely be tailored specifically to your biology. The discovery was published in 2024. While it's currently in the mouse study phase, it provides a roadmap for human clinical trials over the next few years. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
Because it paves the way for pharmaceutical treatments, pills or injections, and gene therapies that could eventually be covered by medical insurance that may stop you from having glasses or eye surgery. The sprouting isn't perfect. If the brain rewires itself incorrectly, it can lead to maladaptive plasticity, which might cause issues and chronic pain. Critics point out that this works for blurry or partial vision. It can't yet replace thousands of lost cells needed for high detail tasks.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see what this happens, but I'm excited about it.
The one cool thing or interesting thing that I read in the study was that it documented a significant sex-based difference in recovery outcomes. So male mice demonstrated faster and more complete reestablishment of neural connectivity than females. So it kind of aligns with prior clinical observations that women often experience prolonged symptoms after brain injury. So that was kind of interesting. And understanding molecular and hormonal contributions to this disparity, that might be one of the crucial things for designing therapies tailored to enhance recovery in both sexes.
Yeah, I'm very interested, and you know that insight will potentially lead to different medicines for male and female and whatnot. So I'm interested in seeing where that goes. And if it continues when they do human trials, if they find the exact same thing to match those patterns.
Yeah.
So we're moving away from the idea that the brain is hardwired and toward a future where we can program it to heal itself. So is this the end for permanent vision loss, or is rewiring risk too high? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll be reading your theories, and we'll keep an eye on this closely.
You want to talk about your molt bot?
Sure, why not? So OpenClaw, ClaudeBot, previously ClaudeBot, previously Moltbot, now OpenClaw is taking the world by storm. And I don't know if we talked about this, but there's even now a social network that's dedicated specifically for OpenClaw. And it's not for you and me. When I say it's for OpenClaw, it's for the AI to talk to each other. You can go and look, but the AI is talking to each other. And a couple of days ago, it went from a few thousand to well over 100,000. And now we're looking at 1.5 million AI agents logged in and using this social media for AI agent service. So OpenClaw is going crazy. I was talking to a client of mine yesterday and telling them about the OpenClaw desktop and dashboard I'm building for them. And late yesterday, I got a message from them saying, I never heard about it before you told me. Now everybody's telling me about it. So it's really taken the world by storm. And it is a digital agent that lives on your computer. Now, they found all sorts of security issues, 0 day and all that. And it's open source and people are getting updates all the time. So you definitely have to be careful what you give it access to. And be monitoring and be aware of all the security stuff related to it. But it's definitely powerful, flexible. I'm on my third install now, teaching it differently than I have before to try and bring things along differently. And I'm loving what it can do to get things moving. And I've seen a couple of interviews with the person who made it. And, he just decided that he wanted to give back and that he built this for himself and then released it to the world.
Yeah, this is. I still haven't played around with it, but so here's my take on this. I think we're getting closer and closer to our Skynet moment with this.
Oh, absolutely! Like seriously.
Yeah.
4 days ago, Moltbook didn't exist, and now it's 1.5, almost 1.6 million AI agents talking to themselves on their social network. And when I say security thing, I'm not hooking my bot up to this at any time soon. But the social network is supposed to be them asking for questions when they're stuck and getting help from other bots to fix it. But sometimes they just talk about dominating humans and doing other things. And sometimes they're sharing API keys and stuff. So people are like going there, like it's a nightmare for security if your bot is, posting crap about you or your clients or whatever you're giving to it. So there's definitely stuff you have to be aware of. But yeah, we are definitely moving to a next stage. Like I use anti-gravity, I use Lovable, I use a bunch of coding tools to do different things. But, and they work and you can build agents and they can do stuff. But once you start training something like this that can, continuously improve and know yourself. It's the easiest one I've used so far. And there are 2 or 3 different forks of it already out. So we'll have to see where it goes. But if you're into it, check it out. I would not suggest getting your robot to talk to Moltbook, but go ahead and go to Moltbook and check it out. Just you can browse and see what they're doing. You might find that OpenClaw is down. They've been under a DDoS for the last couple of days. They've move their GitHub around a little bit so you can get access to it, but the DDoS has followed them around. So use the npx command to install it, not the curl command, and you'll have better luck if you're looking at that. But take a look at it. It's pretty cool, and I'm excited, and I'll be continuing to give updates on where we are with OpenClaw over the next little while. Stay tuned for updates.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on, John?
Yeah, depending on when this comes out, we've got a few events. Maybe CIX might be coming up. The auto show as well, but that's in February, so I don't know when this comes out. But tons of events coming up in the next few months, including startup drinks and Flowgrammer events. How about you, Craig? What do you have coming up?
There's always Flowgrammer events, startup investor drinks. This will probably be coming out actually in early February, just because of the topic. We'll squeeze it in. So there is a February 19th startup investor drinks, and there's a one every month. We've got 6 investors already lined up for startup investor drinks. So if you really want to talk to investors, And I've got more coming. So we'll probably end up with over 10 investors. And we usually only get a crowd of about 50 people these days. So, with a 1 to 5, 1 to 4 investor to startup ratio, you're going to get a lot of interesting conversations going on. So check that out. Check out everything else over at torontostarts.com or flowgrammer.ca for all our business and AI automation. If you're looking to automate your business, or you're a business automator, or you're just looking to get an AI, check out flowgrammer.ca. We help businesses take to the next level, but we also run Flowgrammers, the Toronto's builders hub, where we do Flowgrammer Cafe, we do demo nights, we do our online live builds. So join the community, because it's all about learning. And if people want non-dilutive funding, John, where do they go?
Yeah, so non-dilutive would be government funding, grants, and tax credits. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, John Irwin. Happy to chat. But if you need anything else related to your startup, where can they find you, Craig?
TorontoStarts.com for everything else. And that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Talk to you soon.